Hi Year 7, welcome back to another violin and viola lesson. Last week we did loads of practice on A string hoedown, so I want to make sure we get to perform that today before we move on to our next piece. So I want to kick things off by doing the new D major scale rhythm that we started last week. So just to remind you, it was the different rhythm that went something like this. T, 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 ta, ta, T, 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 ta, retake. So it's the same rhythm as we've done the previous week, it's just that we were moving to the next note a bit sooner than we had done before, okay? So let me just show you the whole thing all the way through. Hopefully you've got your violins and your violas ready. And what I want to do is to make sure that as I am playing it this time, just to get yourself familiar with it and just to remind yourself of the pattern, I want you to have your instruments up and ready to just mime along to me. So your bows can stay away from your instrument, and while I'm playing it, you make sure your left hand is going through the motions as well, okay? So here we go, after 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now 2, 3. Now we take on to A. 1, 2. Retake but stay there. Then down to 2. 1. Open. Retake onto D3. 1. Open. And it's as simple as that. It's going up the scale and back down with that new rhythm, but just with a few retakes in the middle just to keep us on our toes. Okay, so this time let's see if we can play it all together. So instruments up on your shoulder. Check that your sloth is happy and can breathe. Check you can tap all 4 fingers down. Check your thumb is opposite your first finger. Get your bow ready on the D string. So violas, that's your second string from the right. Violins, that's your third string from the right. Check that you can tap your little finger on top of your bow, and check that your thumb, being careful not to hit the wall here, check that your thumb is a smiley face, not a frown. Okay, here we go, after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Retake onto A. 1, 2, 3. Retake but stay there. Down to 2. 1. Open. Retake onto D3. 2. 1. Open. And that's it. Very good. And of course, the reason we were doing the warm-up using that rhythm is because it's the same bowing pattern, it's the same rhythm as the piece A string hoedown uses. So we're making sure that our warm-up is warming up the correct muscles and getting our muscle memory ready for that piece. So it hopefully should feel nice and straightforward when we come around to it. Now, on the screen in front of you, you can see the piece. And last lesson, we did a lot of work looking at the last line, the third line here, which had a slightly different rhythm. Now, I want us to be able to perform this piece, and I'm assuming you've managed to go through that video a couple of times as practice to get familiar with it, but it's important that we still sort of gradually get ready to perform it instead of jumping straight in. So what I'd like us to do is I would like us to listen to it with the backing track. We're going to listen to it twice before we even attempt to play it. The first time, we're just going to sing the numbers. So we're going to follow the music. I'll be pointing at it so that you can see. And we're going to sing whether it's oh, 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 or 1, 1, etc. The second time, we will then make sure we are miming while we sing it, and then we will play it through. Now, the main reason I'm doing this quite gradually is because, if you'll remember from last time, there were a couple of repeats and things to look out for that are easy to get caught out with unless we prepare for it properly, okay? So get ready. The first time, all I need you to do is to follow the music along with me and sing along as to whether it's an open A, so O, or first finger 1, etc., etc. Here we go. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. Oh, 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 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2. Retake. 3, 3, 3, 3, 2. Oh, 1, 1, oh, oh, 1. Next line. Oh, 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 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2. Retake. 3, 3, 3, 3, 2. Oh, 1, 1, 2, 1, oh. Next line. Oh, oh, oh. Retake. Get ready for tucker tucker. Oh, 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 oh. Retake first finger. 1, 1, 1, 1. Retake third finger. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 1. Oh, 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 oh. 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2. Retake. 3, 3, 3, 3, 2. Oh, 1, 1, oh, oh, 1. Next line, go. Oh, 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 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2. Retake. 3, 3, 3, 3, 2. Oh, 1, 1, 2, 1, oh. Those two lines again, just pause. 3, 3, 3, 3, 2. Oh, 1, 1, 2, 1, oh. Fine. Very good. I said those two lines again. I meant the last two bars. I'm sure you were catching up with me. And of course, fine, the Italian meaning the end. So that's where we finish it. Okay, good. Let's try that same thing again. Only this time I want us to mime along so that we can make sure that while we're still able to follow the music, we know exactly which fingers to push down as well. Here we go. Here we go. Instruments up, fingers hovering over the A string. And a 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, 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 oh. 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2. Retake. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2. Oh, 1, 1, oh, oh, 1. Retake. Oh, 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 oh. 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2. Retake. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2. Oh, 1, 1, 2, 1, oh. Third line. Oh, oh, oh. And oh, 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 oh. First finger down. 1, 1, 1, 1. Now all three down. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 1. Oh, 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 oh. 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2. Retake. 3, 3, 3, 3, 2. Oh, 1, 1, oh, oh, 1. Next line. Oh, 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 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2. Retake. 3, 3, 3, 3, 2. Oh, 1, 1, 2, 1, oh. Those two bars again. 3, 3, 3, 3, 2. Oh, 1, 1, 2, 1, oh. Fine. Excellent. Really, really good job. So now, hopefully, now that we've followed it through twice, once just focusing on the numbers of the fingers that we'll be adding, and the second time miming along, it should feel a bit more straightforward playing it through now as a performance. So can you get your bows ready and get your setup all sorted so that we are ready to perform this through from start to finish? Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 4. Retake. 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 Third line. Retake first finger. All three down. Back to the start. And retake. 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 Play those two bars again. Fantastic. Good job. Really nice to perform that one. As I mentioned last lesson, there is a faster track. It does say at the start here that we should be playing this jogging pace, and that was more of a casual amble. So if you wanted to try the faster backing track, then just pause this video now, head to YouTube and type in Vermouche A string hoedown. It's all there for you to find, and you can challenge yourself to playing along to the faster version. For the rest of this lesson though, I want us to get ready for the next piece, which is called Fiery Fiddler. It's on the screen now in front of you, but I've only included the first 2 lines because we're only going to look at the first 2 lines today. But before we even look at the music, I've created a little warm-up that we can do that prepares us for this. Fiery Fiddler is a bit more tricky because it involves what we call string crossing, which funnily enough is when we cross strings from one to the next. We've done this a little bit with some of the pieces in the past, but this one does it quite a lot. So what I want us to do is to just look at the warm-up at the top of the screen here. If you're playing the violin, I want you to look at the top line. If you're playing the viola, I want you to look at the bottom line. It's exactly the same, it just looks a bit different, okay? Now, if you look at the numbers, they tell us what fingers we should be using. So if it's a 0, it tells you it's an open string. You've just got to figure out whether it's an open D or an open A. An open D or an open A. So you do need to look at the notes, you can't just rely on the numbers, okay? Now, every other note, every alternate note is an open A string. So that helps us out a little bit. And the other ones just climb up. Okay, so let me just demonstrate this for you. If you follow the notes, if your violin, follow these notes. If you're playing viola, follow these notes. I'm just going to demonstrate it to you. It goes something like this. Open D, open A, 1, 2, 3, then back down, 1, then O. Okay, so let me try it. I'll play it again, but without shouting it out for you, so you get a sense of what it sounds like. So essentially what we're doing is we're doing the start of a D major scale. We're going up the D string, then back down. But every other note we're interrupting with an open A. So can you just try miming along to me playing it? So have your instruments up and ready, and make sure your left hand is ready to put down our fingers on the D string. The A string is always open. We never add any fingers onto the A string for this warm-up. Okay, let's just try it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Open. D1, D2, D3. Now back down to D2, D1, open. So it seems as though there's a lot to think about, but actually as long as your left hand just focuses on doing the start of a D major scale, and as long as your right hand just goes between the D and the A string, it should be okay. Can we just give this a go? Get your instruments up and ready. Get your bows on the D string. Somewhere in the middle of the bow, we don't want to be right at the heel, we don't want to be right at the point, somewhere in the middle. And we're just going to do little bows while we get used to this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Open D, A, D1, open A, D2, open A, D3, open A, D2, open A, D1, open A, open D, A, D. Very, very good. Let's just try that again without me shouting it out, and then pause this video and have a little private practice of that until it feels familiar before you then press play and carry on into the piece. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Hit pause and practice that for a couple of minutes until you feel prepared. Okay, so now that we have figured out the warm-up, now that we're a bit more familiar with it, let's have a look at the music itself. So I've changed it to a slightly larger version, so this time we've still got violins on the left, violas on the right. If we just have a look at the notes themselves, before we come around to singing the notes and singing the numbers, I want to give you a bit of a clue. The numbers on this piece only appear when we actually have to press down a number on the strings. All of the ones that don't have numbers are all open strings. Most of the time open A's, as with the warm-up, every other note for a while is an A, okay? So bearing that in mind, I want us to actually start off with singing the numbers. So I want to reverse things and just do the numbers first of all. Okay, so just to give you a sense of how it goes before we join in, I'm just going to play those first two lines for you. So just have a listen first of all. That's how the tune goes. So bearing that in mind, let's just try and sing along the numbers, okay? And I am again going to get my handy spotlight ready so that I can show you exactly where we're looking. As before, it's going to be on the violin side, unfortunately. Okay, so starting on a 2, and for all of the A's, we'll just say oh, oh, oh. Okay, let's just give it a go after 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 oh 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 3 oh 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 2 oh 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 1 oh 1 oh 2 oh 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 3 oh 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 2 oh 1 oh 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 oh. So whoever's around while you're doing this probably going to wonder what on earth we're singing loads of oh 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 for. But that's how those first two lines go. I think there are two. There's one area in particular that's a bit tricky, and it's the end of the first line here. It goes 1 oh 1 oh. So it's the difference between having our first finger on the D string 1 oh, and then the first finger on the A string 1 oh. So that's what we need to look out for. Okay, now that we've figured out what the numbers are and how it's meant to go, can you now just take 10 seconds to figure out what the actual notes are? Not the numbers, the actual notes. Off you go. Okay, let's see if we can sing through what the actual notes are from start to finish. After 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. F, A, G, A, F, A, E, B, F, A, G, A, F, E, D, A. At which point there's a repeat sign there, so we go back to the beginning and do that again. Okay, good. So hopefully we're familiar with how it's meant to go. The next stage, of course, on our practice routine is to sing and mime. Okay, now I'm going to go back to singing the numbers to help us out. If you are up for the challenge, then feel free to just sing the notes for now. We're going to start moving towards just doing the notes, not the numbers, because we've been sort of taking a slightly easier route up until now. But for now, we'll just stick to the numbers. Okay, so get your instruments up, leave your bow where it is, and I want you to make sure that you have got your first and second finger down on the D string. Okay, now don't forget, as with anything, you can just count up until you get to that note to be sure that you're in the right place, even though we're just miming for now. Okay, now for this, I'm going to hold up my instrument to the screen so that you can see what it's meant to be like. I'm on a violin here, so I'm on the third string from the right. I'm on the D string there. If you're on a viola, it would be the second string from the right. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 oh 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 3 oh 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 2 oh 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 1 oh 1 oh 2 oh 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 3 oh 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 2 oh 1 oh 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 oh. Okay, now some of you may have tried to keep your fingers down on the string. That's really good. However, you might find that when you go onto the A string, you might find that your fingers accidentally touch onto the A string and it sounds a bit horrible. Gets a bit screechy. So you have to be really careful that if you're keeping your fingers down, you make sure that they're not anywhere near the A string. Some of you might find it easier to actually lift them off and then place them back down. That's also fine as long as when you lift them off, they barely leave the string. I don't want anything that's up here. Okay, let's see if we can try and play this now. So get your bows ready. Don't forget we're going to be going between the D and the A string. So we want to make sure, just before we start, that you can easily rock your bow between the two strings to check that your arm isn't too low or too high. Okay, so tap your little finger on the bow, make sure everything's in place. And let's just see if we can do, first of all, just the first line after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 0, 0, 0, 3, 0, 0, 0, 2, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0. Stop there. Very, very good. Can we just take that last bar because that's a tricky one? Let's just get used to that. Can you listen? I'll play it first, you play it back. We're going to go 1, 0, 1, 0. You 1, 0, 1, 0. Me. You. Me. You. Fantastic. Now let's look at the second line. It's very, very similar right until the last 2 bars, so keep an eye out. Let's see if we can manage it. Here we go. Instruments up. Get ready. Check your first note. This is the second line. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 0, 0, 0, 3, 0, 0, 0, 2, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. Very good. As before, let's quickly practice the tricky bit. Let's just do the last 2 bars of the second line. So if you're playing a violin, I'm looking at these 2 bars. If you're playing a viola, I'm looking at these 2 bars. Okay. And a reminder that it should sound like this. 2, 0, 1, 0, 0. Okay, so let's try this. I'll play it, you play it back. Here we go. Me. Now you go. 2, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. Me. You go. 2, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. Very good. Let's try and play the whole of those first 2 lines through just to finish off this lesson, and then that is something that you can work on when you're practicing at home before next lesson. Okay, so here we go. I'll still shout out the numbers and let's just see if we can play these first 2 lines together. Starting on D2, making sure everything's in place. Just quickly, gently rock your bow between your D and A string, and here we go. After 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 0. Now 3. 2. Now get ready and 1, 0, 1, 0, 2. Now 3. Now 2. 1, 0. That's it. I know it's easy for me to make it seem as though it's really, really simple when I'm this side of the screen, but the whole idea, as I keep saying, is to pause the video at any point if you just need a couple of extra minutes just to process what I'm telling you and to try it out. And then as for practice this week, I really want you to try and look at the warm-up that I introduced you to just a moment ago. 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 2, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, before you then start looking at the first 2 lines of Fiery Fiddler. And make sure you go through the practice routine when you're looking at this independently. So sing the note, sing the number, sing in mime, and then play. Okay, and I look forward to trying this again together next lesson. Have a good week. Bye.